Okay, perfect. I will make sure we get you up there.
I've turned the recording on, just so everybody knows. And we do have 2 public comments.
That's a game.
Is to do this. Thank you.
I'm sure you'll have, I'm trying to, but it's like.
I appreciate you out there.
Running a roadblock this morning, they cleaned every corner.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. John Brotherton.
Here.
Rhoda Johnson.
Here.
Katie Johnston. Here. Diane Mendoza. Here. Nikki Pettit. Here. Deborah Sweat. Here. Robin Vaughn.
Here. Okay. First thing on the agenda is additions, corrections, and modifications. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda. I second it.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Diane Mendoza.
Aye.
Rhoda Johnson.
Aye.
Katie Johnston.
Aye.
John Brotherton. Deborah Sweat. Robin Vaughn.
Aye. Okay. Would you want to read that?
Yep, I will. So first thing on is public comment, and we know who's first. Are you coming? You want to speak together, or you want to both speak separately?
No,
Separate. Okay. I'm going to read the statement here. Members of the public are welcome to speak during the public comments section of the meeting only. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Board members will not respond to comments or questions during this time, but they may follow up with speakers following the meeting. If the total time for public comments reaches 30 minutes, which it will not this evening, the board may suspend further comments until later in the meeting. Speakers are asked to please conduct themselves with respect and civility towards others. Thank you.
Tom Hammond.
I'm not sure.
You can just come up to the table if
You
you'd
want
like.
to
Oh,
sit? You
okay.
don't have to sit.
I need to sit down or what?
It's up to
Whatever
you.
whatever you're comfortable with.
Well, since the school started, I'm really having a little trouble with the sister schools, where you're splitting up kindergarten and kindergarten first and second graders that are having to walk so far. Well, just so happens, I live, 4 houses away from this school. I got a 2-year-old, my grandson, that only by grace of God, we live on the right side of the railroad tracks where he's getting bused. But the bus stop, you're having to go all the way down there to James, and then the bus, like when they drop him off, the bus drives on down here to Sunview. where if they open the doors up, it is a bus stop right there at that stop sign, it is an actual bus stop. If they gotta stop at the stop sign, they open the door, he'd have less than 100 yards to walk. Now he's walking almost 3 blocks. And the traffic down there, I don't know if you've been down there, but if there's so many cars, the neighbors are already hollering. They can't get in and out of their driveways. So I was hoping the board might be able to address that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hammond, did you leave your contact information so we can follow up?
I
Did you write it
phone
down?
numbers on there.
All right, thank you.
There's an email, you can follow up with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Ray?
Okay, first of all, I don't have any children in school, but I know a 12th grader and a 6th grader that are struggling to read. My question is, I'm still doing research, but I looked up on the scores. Math and reading took a nosedive from 70 to 80% in 2011. Between 2011, 2013, and 2015, they're not increasing. They're steadily going down. My question is, we have people, administration, what are they doing for $195,000? Where a teacher, who the median salary is $51,660, which is only $990 monthly before the tax deductions. I looked at the curriculum. There is phonics, that's good, but why are these kids having problems reading? I heard the slogan before, no kid left behind. No, we're not leaving behind, we're pushing them through. We're making them dumb. We're keeping them dumb. They are not gonna be prepared to go out and get a job. I don't have any kids normally right now in school. But if I did, I'd be concerned. I can understand why some people are educating them at home because they're getting an education. I taught my kids and yes, parents have a responsibility, but society today has made it where, you got divorced parents. They're working 2 or 3 jobs. Community as a whole needs to work and help these kids. So our community, because they're gonna be our future. Without them, we're gonna have socialism. We're gonna have failure. They're not gonna be able to do anything. Crime's gonna go up deeper than it is. And I'm sorry, we've taken God out of school and look at the conditions of the school. We have kids coming in here shooting other kids, adults. I want to see a change because someone has to care for the kids. I'm gonna try and work with this one and try and help him to read. But we have to be, I don't know, what is the purpose of the school board? What is the purpose of these people that are getting $195,000? There's one in the high school, I'm gonna ask about that one. No, it's in the District 137, $220,000. For what? Who? But yet our teachers are these teachers, are all the teachers? I'm not trying to be negative, but are these teachers qualified? Because can you keep a qualified teacher at such a minimal wage? But yet the administrators, the conditions of a school, it bothers me. It worries me. I am so glad I don't have a child in school right now. I am so glad. And I'm gonna do some more research because I wanna be prepared, but I'm just letting you know now. And we gotta do something though. We gotta do something for these kids. They are our future. They are our future. When you're old and in the nursing home, your grandkids are gonna be making decisions that's gonna affect your lives. Okay? So that's all I have to say right now.
Okay. Did you leave your contact, is your contact on there?
No, I didn't, but
Okay.
yeah, I did.
Her phone number.
I
Okay,
did,
got
I
it.
did.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry.
One more that's not quite a public comment, but I'm gonna introduce, I usually do this at this point. Brian Deere, you come up. Brian is our Director of Facilities Director. You can sit. He's coming to us from the military, and I'm learning that to be direct. All right. Normally we would introduce our new administrative hires at the time we hire them, but he was active duty in the Air Force at the time. So I'm going to read this very nice bio on Brian. I'm excited to introduce our new Facilities Director, Bryant Deere. Bryant grew up right here in Rantoul, attending Broadmeadow, Northview, and JWA before graduating from RTHS in 2014. Everyone's getting his age right now, right? He then attended Parkland College while working at Burtner's as a clothing salesman and serving as outreach coordinator for the Prairie Lands Council Boy Scouts office. In 2017, Bryant joined the U.S. Air Force. After graduating from basic training in January 2018, he completed technical training as an aircraft structural mechanic.
Okay, good.
He was first stationed at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in North Carolina. This is the most interesting bio I've ever gotten to read, so that's why I'm reading it. Air Force Base in North Carolina, working on F-15E Strike Eagle fighter jets, where he gained a strong foundation in mechanics and production. In late 2021, Bryant transferred to Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri to help establish the base's first ever aircraft structural maintenance section. There he trained 6 new airmen from the ground up, forming a highly effective team. His leadership and technical expertise contributed to major accomplishments, including returning a crashed B-2 stealth bomber to service in 22, resolving a critical defect that had grounded the fleet, and leading recovery operations for stranded aircraft. He also served on the commander's inspection team and the Inspector General's office, and was part of the successful completion of Operation Midnight Hammer. That was pretty recent, right? That was the real recent one that I ran, right? Am I right? Yeah. While stationed at Whiteman, Brian earned his bachelor's degree in engineering technology with a focus on management. He is now pursuing a master's degree in industrial management. Bryant brings with him not only technical expertise, but also valuable leadership experience in building strong, disciplined teams and exceeding expectations under pressure. At home, he and his wife, Olivia, are raising 3 children, Charles 4, Harrison 2, and a newborn, Lucy. So he's busy. All right. They've all been in the office too. So we are grateful to welcome Bryant and his family to the RCS 137 family, and I am confident that his knowledge, skills, and commitment will help us ensure that our district facilities are the best they can be. And I will say that it's been, we've only had 2 weeks or 3 weeks at this point. 2 weeks. Yeah, so far he's perfect. So things are going really well, and he's a quick learner. So I'm introducing Bryant Deere, our new facilities director, and I think he met all of you candidates. So thank you, Bryant. And
Thank you.
We usually applaud. Take your job. Do you want to say anything? You don't have to.
I appreciate the reception that I've gotten in the district. Everybody's been really nice. I feel like it's a really nice spot to return to after being gone for so long, so thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for him?
I just want to say thank you for your service.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much.
And you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Okay.
All right. On to our next item. Vaughn?
Moving on, closed session. Can I get a motion? We need to close session. And we need to close.
We'll do that in there.
Do we need to say the whole thing?
Just the part that's on the screen. Motion to move to closed session.
Make a motion to move to closed session regarding the appointment,
Sorry.
employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees.
John, second.
John Brotherton. Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Lodo Johnson.
Aye.
Robin Vaughn.
Aye.
Diana Mendoza. Katie Johnston. Deborah Sweat.
And for the public, we're going to move to a different room and go into closed session. When the board finishes closed session, they will they'll do a motion to end closed session and reconvene open session before we return, so you won't see that when we come out. But thank you. We're going to move. We're We're gonna go, you don't know where you're going.
Stick around
No.
if you want to, you don't have to, but there's some refreshments over there. if you want to sit down. Yeah.
Don't be offended when I call you guys my external.
I read this.
Hey, Dan.
No,
Brevity.
I just like, for whatever reason.
Glad you're here. Mr. Brotherton?
Managing it.
Whenever you're ready, Robert.
No. Okay, the consent agenda items. We don't need to take a roll call, right?
No, we already did.
Okay.
We already voted. So,
Alright. Now we're on consent agenda. Can we get a motion on the consent agenda? Anybody?
That you read?
I can. Yeah.
Yeah, motion to approve the consent agenda from the personnel report as submitted with the stipulation that each individual is required to comply with all requirements for new hires as indicated in all their statutes and RCS board policy and procedures, including ratification of bill prepaid by the financial manager and board policy 4.50.
I'll second it.
And I'd like to, remove an item from the consent agenda.
Okay.
Do you want it as a separate vote? The motion's already been made. so-
Yes, 5F,
Which one is that?
the approval of the superintendent evaluation tool.
Okay.
Alright, so. We're just adding, removing.
We're on the thing.
Okay. Diane Mendoza. Aye. Deborah Sweat. Katie Johnston. Aye. John Brotherton. Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Robin Vaughn.
Aye.
Rhoda Johnson.
Okay. Let's talk about 5F, the superintendent's tool. We're on to discussion and approval of items that were removed from the consent agenda.
Okay, the reason let me remove this and get some blowback. Asked for this to be removed. I actually attended a webinar of this afternoon, regarding evaluation of the superintendent. And I was quite impressed by the presentation. It only, or the webinar, it only lasted a half hour. But since this is already in process, I'm new to the board. What I'd like to see happen is a committee be established to redo the superintendent evaluation. They have a super eval program through the Illinois Association of School Boards. And it's all online, it's interactive, all the board members fill that out. It can also include administrative leadership staff, they can give input as well. We can customize it based on our needs. There is a slight cost, and they keep it low to make it affordable. And it's based on the size of the district and the information we want to encompass. It can run anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. There is a goal setting where we can do benchmarks, where there's a self-assessment, data markers and evaluation, and an overall performance review as far as that. I did a lot of the comments for the people that attended. They are not, and they weren't all new board members, some were, but they are not pleased with the evaluation tools currently being used in their district. And they said that they would like to look at something different and new and revise it. So it's not something to vote on. I'm just asking that we look here in the very near future to get something established so we can possibly look at the feasibility and of the current superintendent evaluation. Erin Wilcox is the person referenced. ewilcox@supereval.com. She is available, and what she does is she comes to districts, a 20-minute presentation of the super eval program, and she can work with the district to customize it, and it's a lot easier than doing paper forms. It calculates everything. It also will put the responsibility either on the board president or the secretary, whoever's designated, to make sure all aspects, you will be queued when board member Brotherton completes his part of it, you'll be queued. And when everyone else completes their portion, you'll get a notification, and then it can be sent electronically to all the board members, so everybody receives a final copy of what the evaluation is, etc. The full scope, all the comments, etc. that are made by board members, even by the superintendent, their input, or if we include administrators, we can get their input as well, if that's what we choose to do. So I was really impressed, and if we can use an electronic evaluation, I think that would be super. I think something we need to look into, or could.
I have a couple comments on that, if that's okay.
Mhm.
I know what you're talking about. When the first year I was on the board, I went to a conference and I sat in the superintendent's tool presentation at the conference. And I thought the same thing. But I had not participated in the evaluation process at that time. And then as I participated in the process, I understand that I understood that we do all of those tasks in the process. That specific tool does. And we don't have to pay the added expense for it, which in the next year or so, it's really important for us, I think, to save as much funding as we can, because we don't know what the federal government's going to do. We don't know, if we can rely on our grant funding to come through. I think being conservative with our funds right now, for me, is an important thing. And I would just say maybe we table this until next year, after you've sat through one evaluation and you see how the process goes, and then maybe pick it up and see how, if we like it at that time.
And that's why I said, in my statement, unless it wasn't clear, not implement it now, but explore it. Just look at it and maybe plan to, I'm not saying use it in place of this, and I haven't been on this side of the evaluation process, but I've attended the board meetings, I've known people on the board. So I had a peripheral view of it, and all I'm saying is right now, think about it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying do it, think about it, and let's look at what else is out there. I've also Googled and printed out superintendent evaluations from Florida. A friend, I have a friend who's principal at Baltimore. They set their superintendent's evaluation, and I have 2 relatives who are teachers in Atlanta, and I had them send their evaluation. And they're quite different, they're more comprehensive, and I'm just saying super eval could be a tool, but we maybe need to look at and modify the current one that we have for next year, not this year, next year.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it, because you said, and maybe I misunderstood you, that you were privy to the super evaluation tool that we use because you knew people on board, right?
No, not because I knew people, I also FOIA'd it.
Oh, okay,
I FOIA'd,
okay.
and I knew
So
that
what
they were
is
going
it,
through the
what
process.
is it about the tool that we have now that
And
you don't like? Or are you saying you just want us to explore options and you would like for us to sit and listen to this presentation?
that too, but also as I emailed Robin, I don't see specific data markers. I don't see, and that's when, and I put this information in the chat, and they read it and they discussed it a little bit at the webinar today. There are no short-term, mid-term, long-term goal markers. There are no intervals of where you, there appear to be where you meet with the superintendent and discuss benchmarks. Has this been accomplished? Has that been accomplished? And that's why I say it's more comprehensive. This eval, and like the other people commented, and I was shaking my head, I was like, this is more of you're evaluating the superintendent based on his assessment of his own duties, not your assessment. And how do you measure his assessment if there's no benchmarks, if there's no short-term, long-term goals, no measuring tools, no metrics to determine?
You're saying that's what your opinion is on what is happening right now?
Well, that could be what's
Okay.
happening, and that's been kind of the sentiment for the past several years, and it's not just this administration, even before, that the community, and some folks know or don't know, I was on the other side. I was the advocate, community advocate speaking, and we did not feel that the evaluation was sufficient. It wasn't detailed enough to make, and wondered how the board was able to make a full recommendation. So I'm just saying, down the road, after this, because this is coming up in December, January, so I'm not saying switch it now. Be open to looking at something different and stop, and not stick with what's it saying it's the end all be all. Let's explore what else or what could be done different down the road.
So then really, but maybe I'm not doing things right, this could have stayed in the agenda items because you're saying you're not trying to change anything this year.
I'm not trying to change
So then
anything
it
this
could
year,
have stayed,
but I
right?
wanted
But
to
you just
discuss
want
it,
us
yes, discuss it.
To have.
Yes, ma'am,
Oh,
Further discussion.
yes, discussion about it, that's all.
So do we need to go back and add it in,
Or do we have to keep it
or
separate
do
now?
we?
No, you can
You
still
have to do a
vote on it.
separate
I think we
vote,
have to do it
Yeah.
separate now because we already made the motion to separate it, so now we have to do a separate vote,
Okay.
right?
Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hang on, I do got a question on 5E, and the reason I have a question is, the SRO, it has to where we got Rancho Township High School as a contractor. I mean, is there a reason why we got our
I mean, the actual
Is
contract
that just a
itself.
misprint?
It probably is.
I was just wondering if we.
It's not signed yet.
Okay.
But also, Mr. Johnson, the board already approved it.
Okay.
So, no, but before I sign it, I'll make sure it's the right copy.
Yes.
They sent them out to both districts, I'm sure, at the same time.
Okay, I didn't know if we were kind of piggybacking, or they were piggybacking off us on that.
Okay. Are we ready to move forward on our vote on the approval of the superintendent's rule?
And just one more item on that. The signatures on the contract, am I looking at the right one? It says Sam Smith, not Sam Hall.
As
On
president.
on which one are you looking at? On the IGA with the Village of Grantville? Are we still on 5E?
That's where I'll be honest, I'm confused. Is that the one with the resource officer contract? One of those documents has Sam
Sam
Smith.
Smith instead of Sam Hall?
Yes.
I
If you
believe
could just-
these come from the village, I think. Yeah, this came from the village, we did not.
Yeah, well,
type this up,
okay, well, that's
so
fine.
we
It needs
will-
to be corrected, I think, before anybody puts a signature on it.
Right here.
It does say Sam Smith.
Yeah, I seen that too.
The old mayor and the new mayor.
Yeah,
It's
they
been-
mixed them
So
up,
we will
didn't they?
make sure I mean, that did come from the village,
Yeah,
so
so-
we'll make sure that it has the correct name on it.
Yeah, before you sign it.
Okay, so are we back at 5F?
5F,
Okay,
approval of the superintendent's tool.
so we need
Can we
somebody.
get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the superintendent.
I second that.
Sorry, I'm going off of nothing here.
She's winging it.
I'm winging it now, so it takes me a minute, sorry. All right. John Rutherford. Dodo Johnson.
Aye.
Katie Johnston.
Aye.
Diana Mendoza.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Deborah Sweat.
Aye.
Robin Vaughn.
Aye. Okay. The presentation of the Instructional Advisory Committee Annual Summary for the Board.
Do you want, are you gonna bring everybody up?
No, they don't.
So Jamie Roundtree, Director of Curriculum Instruction, and, do you wanna introduce your team?
it's all one line.
Okay, so let me pull it up here. There you go.
First off, good evening, board.
Good evening.
Appreciate the opportunity. Again, Jenny Roundtree, Director of Student Instruction. I'd like to also introduce what I call my external hard drives, because my memory is old now, I don't have any more left, so they carry a lot of the information. They carry a lot of important information that my hard drive no longer can process. So this is Diana Kissler-Ramey. She is our instructional programming coordinator. This is Michelle Fry. Michelle Fry. She's our bilingual director. So you guys, but yeah, I'm excited about our team this year. I'm excited about the work that we're going to get into, and I'll talk a little bit about that here soon. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Instructional Advisory Committee, which was new to me. And you have to bear with me. I'm also super excited and I'm super nervous, so I'll try to
Nervous?
contain myself. It's a good nervous. No, it's a good nervous. See, I want to do All right. So the purpose, we have basically a body of folks that help support and advise the district leadership. We provide sort of structured advice on curriculum design, instructional practices, and assessment strategies to ensure that they support the district improvement plan. Our work is about creating alignment between classrooms, instruction, district initiatives, and long-term board goals, which is talking about. And also ensures the decisions are grounded in data, research, and voices of educators and families, which is something I think. So this is our sort of mission statement that we've had. All right. Okay. All right, objectives. There are, sort of several key responsibilities that we're responsible for. One of many is identifying and recommending areas of study, reviewing instructional programs, and formally evaluating curriculum pilots. We ensure adoption processes are implemented with fidelity and make recommendations to the board. And another role is sort of communication, answer questions raised by staff, by community, and share updates to keep all stakeholders informed. Ultimately, the objective is to maximize learning for every student. All right? So that's like my AI drawn
I like it.
images. All right, structure.
Hold on, I want me to click, I'll click this. I almost fell out of my chair. All right. Okay.
All right, okay, so membership includes representation from several buildings, or all the buildings have representation. And it also includes grade level representation, special education, bilingual, administrators, to help sort of facilitate the meeting. And everyone comes, they bring reports from their schools, and they take the reporting back to their schools. Oftentimes, there's subcommittees that might be developed based on an instructional focus, or content area, an adoption, or an initiative, such as maybe report card updating, or standards-based grading. And this really, that structure makes sure that we have representation, from a range of perspectives, experiences, and levels of expertise. We meet about 2-3 times a year, and sub-teams work in between when needed. There's a committee, subcommittee. All right, yes, okay, so now we're doing a little time travel, all right? And I just want to provide this context, and I do want to say this is very important. I want to recognize Jen Frericks for all the work that she's done, because as I was learning this and sort of processing these notes, it became that I already knew, but it became even more clear how brilliant she was in terms of trying to create this pathway for this district, for these students, for these teachers, for these families. And so that, I just want to give her credit for the work that she's done. And by no means is, my goal is to evolve it and enhance it and continue, right? So she's done a lot of incredible work, especially during some very difficult times, all right? So through 1819, and a lot of these are based on also some of the notes that were taken during the meetings, so I just kind of compiled them and summarized them, just kind of the highlights of what happened, help us understand kind of how we got here, and for those who may be new to some of the information, all of you could be, hopefully this either rings a bell, from things that you guys were a part of, or maybe get some understanding to kind of how we got where we're at. So in 1819, some of the highlights were the standards-based grading review process and laying the foundation for a better assessment alignment. They also worked to, or we also worked to align the curriculum with the adopted ELA program at that time. And then we also completed a needs assessment for social studies resources to determine gaps and priorities. This kind of set the stage as the foundation for piloting materials in 1920. And we also know in 1819, right, things changed. So again, another testament to the work that was done. All right, 1920, okay. We began sort of a district-wide curriculum needs review across departments, mainly the major subject areas, ELA, math, science, social studies. There was world language, arts, and technology as well. Essentially, we wanted to do a check-in before the next round of pilots and adoptions. This included sort of gathering structured feedback from teachers to guide the adoption. The IAC also prepared adoption recommendations for stakeholders and presented them for approval. All right, next. Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Our focus shifted back to social studies. In 21-22, the district implemented what was known or is known as C3, College, Career, and Civic Life. It's a framework for social studies, and they align curriculum instruction to national standards and strengthening inquiry-based civic learning. We evaluated existing curriculum for areas of improvement and conducted a thorough review, ensuring alignment across K-8 grade levels. And this was important year for ensuring the consistency and equity across the schools as well. All right, 22-23, we initiated discussions around a broader curriculum alignment and introduced a framework of power standards, which are, essential learning outcomes to guide teacher priorities. In addition, the committee completed a full evaluation of the social studies resources, again laying the groundwork for subsequent pilots and adoptions. 23-24 was about piloting new programs. We launched the magnetic reading pilot. The district launched a pilot of magnetic reading to basically strengthen the literacy instruction that was happening and also provide teachers with resources to support comprehension, vocabulary development. This was also in preparation for the shift from balanced literacy to the science of reading, which is kind of the approach we're taking now. Social studies introduced the pilot to test instructional resources, and we launched a pilot of Studies Weekly, providing teachers with Illinois-aligned resources to support inquiry-based instruction and prepare for a full adoption. All right. That was also the year that we began, implemented benchmark Adelante. All right. And those are some of the grading practices. And this was obviously to support bilingual literacy. All right, last year. This was my first year on the committee. And there were a lot of adoptions that were in the process, not a lot, there were a few adoptions that were in the process. We had just, we're in our first year full implementation of magnetic reading. But a lot of the focus for the year that we spent time on was really when we introduced the MTSS academic and behavioral teams, which drove a lot of the work outside of it, but came through that. But it was an alignment to support the district improvement plan, which were two goals. I think one was goals 1 and 2, all right? Let's see. So the academic team focused on interventions and tried to establish a process for evaluating interventions. And then the behavioral team developed district and school-wide management plans, and that was led by Mr. DeAndre, did great work. And so together these efforts sort of allowed us to integrate academic and behavioral interventions to a unified plan. Okay. All right, the future. So I gotta say this too. It's been a long time since I've been this excited about a job and the work that's happening. And again, this is building off of a foundation that was set strong before I was here. And this is all a testament to the work that everyone has done, right? From Dr. Woods to Allison, to Tom, to Jen, to Chris, as well as the principals, the teachers. Like, coming here, we were just talking about this earlier, has been such an incredible start to a new beginning for me, because we have amazing students, we have incredible teachers, we have phenomenal leaders, and my take, people can disagree, is that the problems that exist right now for us exist everywhere, number one, which doesn't make it okay. And I think for years we've said, hey, this is happening to everybody, right? Not here, but in a lot of places. So it's not just us, it's okay, right? Everybody's house is on fire, so we'll burn together. But I think, in a way, I'm excited because we have a lot of components in place to really change that and to shift it. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But I don't think where we're at is the people that are here. There's no one here that is solely responsible for why, we're in a situation where we're not getting the outcomes from our students. And having looked through the stuff and seen the resources and coming from other districts, it's like we are at such a crucial time and we are ahead of the game in a way. And I think we can set the stage for a lot of other districts in terms of how this can be done. So I'm extremely excited and hopeful. We got a lot of work ahead of us, but Some of the work on the IEC we're gonna work on is really trying to secure the adoption process. I think previously we've had a process, but it's kind of become staggered and a little disjointed over the years because we got so much ESSER funding, we got so much title funding for all those years. We purchased a lot of resources and, did a lot of professional development, which set the stage right now for us to actually now do the work, One of the other things I'm really excited about is updating the current report cards to most importantly make them more meaningful for our families and more useful for our teachers. I think the intent of what's been created, and again, this is not a Rantoul thing, this is across the board. The intent of it is understood, but I don't think it really does a service to our families in terms of having them understand what really is going on with their students. Now, there's some folks like, can we just go back to A's and B's and C's and D's? Well, we moved away from that because it didn't really provide parents with any information either. So I think an opportunity for us to sit down and review our report cards with that lens of, this is really for our families, right? We have our own information data to make decisions on, and being a parent and an educator, I can see the value from both sides. But looking at it from a parent, sometimes I think things that we're sharing with them it's not user-friendly, and they can't really understand it. So it's not mean they can't help, they can't support it. So that's one of the other goals we're gonna take on. And then also, right now, we're currently in the process of implementing a new, well, not new, it's an updated instructional literacy framework. And this year we're implementing it, so my goal is next year, our goal next year is to do this same thing with the math. Build it this year so that we can try to implement it next year. So that's sort of the future work. All right. The framework is really designed to provide a vision for reading, writing, and instruction across all the grade levels. I think our main goal is the same way that our intent was the way that we restructured the schools. The reason that this instructional framework was developed is to support that, so that there is more collaboration amongst and between teachers. It also allows for our teachers and our staff to work with students where they're at, which I think has been a real challenge for a lot of our teachers because of what our students have missed. And this is no fault of anyone, it's just the way the system and the structure has been set up. So our hope is to change that, the instructional framework. Did I go far too far? Yeah, we're almost done. All right. And so I think the implementation of this instructional framework and the shifting of the schools has been a huge shift and change for our teachers, and I empathize with them wholeheartedly. But they have been incredible, right, in terms of taking this on, and I know they're going to need support from you all, from us, to ensure that they have the time and the space to learn how to do this really well, which is also another reason why we want to shift the adoption process, because it takes 5 to 6 years to really figure out if an adoption is right working for our students. So those are some of the things. All right. So future is really about implementation of the literacy framework. We're also working on aligning to multi-tiered systems of support, which is the way that we meet students' needs. And then also leadership development. And lastly, I think one of the most important things, increased opportunities for teachers to collaborate and plan together. That's all I got.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay. So our lovely lady from the public mentioned a student behind in reading.
Yes.
So what will our plan do to help our students that are struggling?
Yeah. I'm gonna try to answer this, and please feel free to jump in. So one of the things that we have looked at is our phonics instruction, like the students actually learning the code. And how we're addressing that is, because this is really about equity. And when I think about Rantoul, we have students that come from very different backgrounds. And I was thinking about this conversation with right? And the idea is all these students are coming with their own cultural value. Every one of them. We all know, maybe you know, that the schools are really built on white middle class values. Now that's not a bad thing, it's just that is the standard, right? And so when you're saying that everyone has to arrive at that or else something's wrong with you, it creates a dynamic. It's very challenging for our students, challenging for our families, and challenging for our teachers. So a lot of what we're addressing is looking at this through language comprehension and word recognition. I come from a background where my dialect, not now, but when I'm not around you, is very different than it is here, right? And I think what's been messaged intentionally and unintentionally is that there's something wrong with you if you don't understand or speak. And what I love about Rantoul is we have, you know, working class white families, working class black families, working class Latino families. And all of them come with their own language, their own dialect. And learning white middle class language is a challenge for them because it's different. But we're telling them there's something wrong with you to a certain extent, not intentionally, but subliminally, that there's something wrong with you because you don't speak this way, because this is the right way versus this is just different. I worked with psychologists or speech path that talked about she used the frame, it's difference, not disorder. And trying to shift our teachers to understanding that about our students and themselves, I think is gonna help with this. Because we have to work with the students where they're at. And they bring a ton of intelligence and skills to the classroom. So the way we block out the schedule now gives our teachers focused time to really, really hone in on language development for these students, which ties in everything we're doing with our bilingual programs. It values the dialects that come from white working class families, black working class families, Latino working class families. It values that, brings that into the learning environment so that they can make connections to this. So that's the theoretical sort of vision of this, the structural vision. I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
I'll just add that like the piece he covered the language piece. The other piece that he hasn't talked about is the word recognition piece, and that's what all of us know as phonics. Regardless of where a child comes to us in Rantoul, wherever they are reading at, they will receive instruction at that level. So rather than being instructed at their grade level, if that is not the skill that they need, they will be instructed at the level that they are ready to learn next. Because through brain science, we've learned in the last 30 years that phonics and the way that brains develop the ability to read is very sequential and very systematic. And so we cannot jump ahead and just hope that they catch up by being exposed to material that is further along in what we call the scope and sequence of skills. They have to truly master every skill along the way in order to become proficient at the end.
So they have to learn B right before they can do C. And so I think that's a key thing that we have been missing, because I think the understanding was before was like, you know, retention is bad, so you don't want to hold kids back. But this isn't about grading. This is literally about a set of skills that you have to have. And if our children cannot decode school in any subject, in any area, and life is going to be extremely challenging for them. And this is not because these kids have disabilities or because they have language barriers. It's because we have not figured out yet how to make the connection for them. And I think that's going to be the important part. And that's really an equity lens that we have through this. But it's also about building teacher capacity so that they know how to do that. Because I was a 5th grade teacher. So when I got kids that didn't know how to read, I didn't know how to teach them how to read. Because I had to, you know, I was teaching them hopefully to read, to learn, but not to learn to read. And so I think that focus for us is really our priority. And that's that's how I hope it's gonna make some difference, because I think that's what she was speaking to.
Yes.
Is when you get it's a middle school, right, and they can't decode, like, what do you do, right? So,
Thank you for pointing that out, that, that our students are trying to meet an expectation, as you mentioned. I didn't personally see that until, we had the discussion of our, English as a second language learners. And we had a large group came in, and they were explaining to us how schools work in, Hispanic cultures, and how parents are always in the schools constantly, and there's just a big different cultural shift about it than there is in white
Yep.
working class or white middle class schools.
Yep.
So I really appreciate you explaining that.
Yeah.
I have one more question, and then.
Yeah.
What is your metrics for, measuring your success?
Great question. So we're gonna use a few things. I mean, we have, built-in benchmark assessments that we use, that we purchase, within our already, curriculum, which is iReady. So we're gonna measure students' ability to grow along that continuum, so we can see how they're progressing. That's one of the measurements. What else am I missing? Fast Bridge, but
Yeah, so there are three main categories for assessments. There's the benchmark assessment, and every child takes that, and the purpose of that assessment is to give the educators an insight into how that child is progressing toward grade level normed across national norms across the curriculum. And so they take that 3 times a year. The other test that they take 3 times a year is a screener, and we use FastBridge for that, and the purpose of that assessment is simply to just raise a flag like, hey, there might be a problem here, you need to dig a little further. And when that flag gets raised, then the educators will do what is called a phonics diagnostic, and that test is truly to pinpoint what skills they have and what skills they're ready to learn next. And so all 3 of those tests are given 3 times a year. The metrics that we're using this year is we're looking for 1 full year's worth of growth from every single child. Regardless of where they start, we are looking for 1 full year from where they come to us.
And I think that is sort of to counter this lens of we were trying to intervene our way out of everything. We're trying to do all this accelerated learning, but when you have such a large population of students that are not at benchmark, again, not their fault, not the teacher's fault, by no loss. I mean, this is no fault of anyone's. This is just the way the system instruction they've been pushed through. And so our goal is to say, can we develop a system of instruction that ensures every student makes 1 year's growth? So let's say, right, we got students that are coming from pre-K that have just never had any social interactions, been outside or been around with students, right? They're coming in not as far along as students who have had that opportunity. So for them to be at the same space at the end of kindergarten, they may just be learning how to socialize that year and be exposed to some things. But if we can make sure that they get to the end of, the start of kindergarten and first grade, second grade, third grade, middle school will only have students that are a year, maybe a year and a half apart, for at least 80% of our students. Like, that is the lens that we have right now. Like, they have to make a year's growth. That's what we have to figure out. Now, we're gonna put things in place to measure and see if our system instruction is working. This is not a measurement of teachers, it's not a measurement of curriculum or students yet. Right now, it's just a measure of what does the system need? Do we need to change our curriculum? Do we need to change the structure? Things like that. So those measurements will play out, and then we'll compare, right, each benchmark to the last, and then look at it moving forward.
So is each child based on their own individual? Okay, the thing about that is, okay, they're gonna get older, they're gonna be going up a grade more likely. What if they don't succeed? What if they don't learn? What are we doing to make sure they learn?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think our job is to ensure that we are making that happen, but it should. If the system's working, the system is working, 80% of the kids will make it. That's just how it always has progressed. The problem we're gonna struggle with is, okay, so what do we do about the 10% and the 5% that don't, right? The 15 and 5% that don't. But the students will progress. We will not allow students to continue to move on if you can't decode. Like, we have to get them through that code. And some of the things we put in place will ensure our teachers have the capacity and the ability to make sure that they teach the kids the code. A lot of our teachers didn't even know not a lot of our teachers, some of our teachers, especially when you look at intermediate teachers like myself, have students in 3rd grade, 4th grade, and I did not know anything about that sequence in terms of teaching a student how to read. If I had known that, then I'd go, oh, okay, now I know what to do. And as we're learning more about the science of reading, I think our teachers are starting to understand that as well. And so I think that's how we're gonna ensure if we get the kids the code, then you're not gonna have that.
There are
That's the
some
key.
like very intentional systems put in place this year, with progress monitoring to make sure that students were not waiting until those bigger benchmark times to see like, oh, this child is not making the progress that we anticipated. If a teacher is noticing that a child is not progressing the way that their peers are, progress monitoring is initiated, and so then they are monitored weekly to make sure that they are making those progress, and there are like 6-week cycles that every child is gonna go through to make sure that we're getting the supports put in place for that child to be learning.
Okay,
So that's like a bi-weekly assessment. We would say, hey, okay.
Oh, you're doing it bi-weekly, you're not doing it like every 3?
For students who are struggling, yes.
Oh, okay, so you're monitoring that.
Yeah.
Now, how long have we been doing this? This isn't the first year, right?
This is the
First year?
So this is the first year, so we don't have nothing to measure it off of as of yet.
No, but I will bring you updates, I promise you that. I would love to come back, and I think, this was focused much more on the IAC, but I would love to come back and share with you more about our instructional framework. But I want to also implement it, so we can share with you how it's going, because we're still getting feedback from our teachers and our principals. This is new. It's not, the stuff that we're doing is not new, it's really the how, right? I think that's a huge, huge component for our teachers. I think that's, when I talk to them, like, they're, whether it's their words or their actions or their behaviors, they're like, we just don't know what to do to help these students. And some of that comes because of the lack of understanding the cultural relevance that's involved for all of our students. This isn't just a Black thing or a Latino thing. This is also working class, rural students, white students who are also coming in being like, I don't understand why these words are in this order or what this sound is at the end of this word, because I don't hear it at home, right? I was sharing with Ms. Sweat before that, we grew up and it's like, you don't hear ing. I don't hear ing at home. You hear in, run in, hunt in. And that's not just a Black thing. That is, right, everybody. But when you have never heard that sound and you're supposed to look at it and see it and speak it, it doesn't make sense. So you are struggling, and I think that's the hard part, because we're talking about cultural relevance, not ability. But these students are getting put into special education, or they're getting put into an intervention block, but it has nothing to do with their learning. It has to do with the structure and the way that we're teaching them and what we're missing. So that's part of it as well.
And all I wanted to mention was, thank you for pointing out the systemic issues with instruction and how our kids are learning. Also, what I'm hearing from parents and community members, they're concerned a little bit about AI and the use of it in instruction, and getting the teachers more involved in interacting with the teaching instead of sitting behind a desk and the kids sitting in front of a computer. And so I know my grandkids, you know it from St. Mel, they've been doing iReady for like 3-4 years, and I don't think they're doing it 8th grade now.
They've been doing it in Greenville for a while.
Okay, and so I'm a little bit familiar with that, but can you address how you're going to interact them with the computers, if it's going to be more teacher involvement, one-on-one, etc.?
So some of it is also part of the shift, and I'll let Diana speak more because she's way more of an expert. But some of it is shifting from balanced literacy approach to the science of reading. The balanced literacy approach, you have a lot of students in centers, and they are engaging in activities independently, right? And so only 6 students are at the table, because that's the reading group. And so you will see teachers sitting in one space while the kids are out there. And sometimes, by default, to manage the other 18 kids in your classroom, you say, hey, why don't you get on your Chromebook and you can work on this program, this, reading program or this writing program. And so they did, that was an adaptation that was a need based on the system of instruction. Actually, I don't wanna say a whole lot, but I'm gonna let you say it because you'll articulate it really well. This is when I tap into my external hard drives.
So we have moved away from that structure in the way that instead of one teacher planning for 6 groups of students and teaching them at a small table, we are now grouping students across the grade level by need, so that the teacher can do a teacher-led instruction for a longer period of time because the students all need the same thing.
They're all at the same level.
It's not a level,
Yeah.
it's like on a continuum. I think people get so confused, like, oh, well, you're putting all the low kids here and the high kids. No. When you're talking about that,
Just the word recognition piece,
yeah,
the
that,
phonics
to
piece.
be able to decode, you have to learn this, to learn this, to learn this, to learn this. So if I'm in a group, and I'll give you an example. In a 3rd grade classroom or even a 2nd grade classroom, you can have students that are
Need to
pre-K,
learn letter sounds?
yep, all the way to reading at a high school level, right? You have that. And so I have pockets of those, so I have to meet those students' needs. The way the structure was designed before was I would meet with each group separately. Well, we know the important kids are they're all important, but we always focused on the students who needed, right, to learn how to decode. And so the students who were reading at grade level were like, hey, you go read a book, you work with this student. So, and then there were students that you didn't get to meet with because you were prioritizing in a short amount of time. And I don't think our families or our community understands the structure of how kids were learning. It wasn't that we were doing something bad. It was the best way we thought to provide small group instruction. But what we realized is that these kids, when it comes to word recognition, they have to have these things. So if we group them, and let's say I'm gonna work with the kids that need, beginning blends, and Diane's gonna work with kids that need diagrams, thank you, right? But now, because across the 1st grade, I have a classroom of students that probably are here, and I have a classroom of students that are probably here. But if I'm the teacher in one classroom, and I have all those kids, how am I gonna meet all of their needs in that short amount of time? So this is not tracking kids, this is about, especially when it comes to word recognition, they have to have these skills. So we're gonna provide that, which is why the restructuring is perfect, because now they don't just have 2 teachers, they have 4, 5, 6. And as we get better at it, it'll be even nicer because we'll have bilingual teachers working with monolingual teachers, learning strategies about how to meet the needs of, because all of our students, to a certain extent, are learning to become bilingual, bicultural, because they're all learning like middle class values.
And we don't want to be, article I just read, 80% of 3rd graders in a school district in Alabama failed reading. They could not progress. 80%, 5,000 students, and we don't want that in our district.
If this is something you're interested in, I highly recommend listening to the podcast Sold the Story.
Yes.
Okay.
It's called Sold the Story, and there's, I don't know, they keep coming out with new episodes of it, but it is well worth your time to understand where we've been and what we know now about the brain science behind how a human acquires the skill of reading.
And all of this is gonna be data driven. So we will look at data and we will decide and say, hey, this is where they're at, this is what they need. And this is not guesswork anymore, this is just, hey, and it's not putting it off on one teacher. This is gonna be a collaborative process with all the teachers saying, here are the students we have, who wants these kids, who wants these kids, who wants these kids? And the teachers will take it because they know exactly now, I have the curriculum and the resources and the focus for the group of students in front of me. Whereas before, I had curriculum that was the 2nd grade, but I got kids that needed a lot more and kids that needed a lot more.
Just have one quick question.
Okay.
Will this new way of teaching and learning help discover kids that have issues?
I mean, it's no different than, yes, absolutely, because the data, again, is gonna show, and this kind of gets to Mr. Moto's point, is that when the kid's not progressing, like, if they're showing us that they can't make a year's growth, then we start to intervene. immediately. Like, if you're not starting to make that growth, more monitoring you bi-weekly, we need to change something.
I don't think that's what I need.
Go ahead.
I'm squeeze my daughter's.
Yeah.
Hi, Mia. She's dyslexic, but we had to tell her teacher, and they were like, no, I don't think she is. She gets great grades, and this is where she is at her reading level. Okay, but she is. So I was just wondering if this type of thing
Structure system
would
would help identify some.
that type of thing, or maybe not, because they're learning.
Yeah, yes, it will.
For dyslexia at a certain grade?
I don't think so.
Yes, we have screeners in kindergarten and
That's what
first
I
grade.
thought, yeah,
Yes.
we do screen for dyslexia.
Yes,
I gave it a long
for
answer.
symptoms of dyslexia.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is like a recent mandate, I think, as of like 2 years ago. I think Illinois came out with
That
that.
makes sense,
Yeah.
because she
Yeah.
wasn't,
Yeah,
She wasn't
I think it
diagnosed
was like
until
2
she's like
years
7.
ago, Illinois put out a, like, all school districts have to have a dyslexia screener in K1.
okay.
And it's like symptoms of dyslexia, so it could just raise a flag that they have not had, like adequate prerequisite skills, like, you know, writing and blending and all that, but it could also indicate that there's more of an issue there.
Okay.
They're not taking on learning when we say.
Yeah, in the same way, yeah.
All right. I'm sure there might be more questions.
Thank
but-
you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Andre, 10 minutes. DeAndre and I are gonna get some 10 minutes.
Timer's on.
And I'm talking. Jamie was doing really well for a while. Okay.
One time.
So this is DeAndre Henderson. He is the Director of Alternative Programs. Also, one of Champaign County's latest 40 under 40 honorees. I was told by the News Gazette that I could announce that tonight. So,
Congratulations.
and it's for his work here that he's being recognized, not for something else. So. All right, so what we're going to do real quick is review the 24-25 aggregated discipline data. DeAndre is going to talk about the work that he did with the MTSS behavior team last year, and then what the district is working on primarily under DeAndre's direction. So I get to do the graphs and charts. All right. So looking at the data, overall exclusionary discipline data has decreased. Total discipline referrals decreased over 1 year, but they've been flat over 2 years. One of our concerns that stands out is that our Black students continue to disproportionately be represented in exclusionary discipline. However, we are seeing that decrease. So to give you some, and I believe I'm not going through all the data that we have, but this is one of the metrics to look at is your exclusionary discipline. And really looking at out-of-school suspensions, because out-of-school suspension offenses tend to be things that are more objective, right? A fight is more likely to result in an out-of-school suspension. So you want to see if you're reducing the number of out-of-school suspensions. The other issue with exclusionary discipline is kids miss school and they miss learning, so we always have a goal of reducing out-of-school suspensions. So the good news is that last year we reduced from the prior year where we were at 455 incidents that resulted in suspension, and last year it was down to 276. Total discipline referrals. So 23-24 was a banner year for writing referrals, but we are back down to where we were about 2 years ago. By banner year, I mean good. One of the things I always want to explain it to parents, teachers, board members is a discipline referral is documentation of a behavior concern. And the standard that is applied is if a student has to be removed from class for their behavior, there should be a discipline referral entered. Or if the student, I said has to be removed from class, or if the student leaves class without permission, that would be the other one, where we're going to document with a discipline referral. It does not mean that last year we gave 4,340 discipline consequences, okay? That it's a method of documenting. And the reason I'm only going back to 22-23 is prior to 22-23, we were not entering anything other than, we were not entering all discipline referrals into Skyward. So we didn't have a standard system of tracking discipline referrals across the district. So that we started doing in all the schools in 22-23. Suspension incidents by race. So the troubling thing I mentioned earlier is still that black students are disproportionately suspended from school. The positive, though, is that the overall reduction in suspensions is actually a greater reduction in rate happening among our black students. So last year we had, of the, gosh, what's the total number? It was 200 something. But our black students are still much more likely to be suspended than non-white students, or excuse me, than non-black students. But as the overall number of suspensions decreases, we also want to see that the rate within the African American or black population is also decreasing. So that's actually decreasing at a higher rate than our other student groups. Oh, that was the next chart. So as you can see, as an example, the percentage of suspensions that go to white students has actually increased over the last 3 years. That's not a goal, by the way. But one group has to go up in order for another group to go down when you're talking about percentages. So it's the combination of the reduction in this percentage line for African American students and the prior slide, which is there's actually just less suspensions. So what that means is overall less kids, whether they're white or black, are missing school because of behavioral incidents. So suspensions by type. I'm not at all trying to paint a picture that our students behave beautifully every day. That is not true. We have an ongoing job of working with kids who are good kids but make bad choices. And so what you have to look at is each of these is a teaching moment, right? When we have one of these discipline referrals. But the same 5 things have really been there, and actually they go back further. But it is, I think, a positive to see that from 23-24 to 24-25, the physical aggression and fighting, which are the #1 reasons for students to be suspended from school, we did also see a big reduction in those. The bottom 3, disruption physical and verbal aggression is a category all of its own. But disruption, which is the 3rd category, that tends to be the most subjective category because one person's ability to tolerate something is different from another's. But if that was our #1 reason for suspensions, I would be more concerned about that. That might be it. Now also we have to talk about when we talk about intervening for reading, it's the same thing when we talk about behavior, and we have to teach students skills. So I think this is an important slide, especially when we talk about all of this. So referrals. So we're taking all of the referrals, that's just a documented behavior. Of our students last year that were enrolled, 1,025 had none. So we've got to remember that. So that's 2/3 of our kids. There were no discipline issues. Okay, not one. And then there's 655 that had at least one. Okay, but then of those it kind of grows. Okay, so altogether 72% of our students had 0 or 1 discipline referral. And I would say even my own child got a discipline referral last year in her school. So I put that in the category of good kids make bad choices. I had to tell myself that at least. But one of the things that we have is, you also see on the range, of students who get referrals, most kids got 1, but we had a kid who got 84, right? And so that also then starts to skew the data, and I put it into quartiles just to give you a visual. In that, so we took the students who had at least 1 referral, okay, and what this is showing you here is quartile 4, which is, where did I put that? 9.7% of our students made up 73.3% of all of the discipline referrals. So it might have been a better visual to do a pyramid, but it's almost like increasing levels of intensity of support that we're gonna need to have for those students. So yes, the student who had 84, I can also tell you that student had multiple suspensions. Even though most students don't get suspended, most students that get suspended only once. But we then do have some students, 3.1% of our students had more than one out-of-school suspension. Good news is we have not had an expulsion from the district in 2 years, and part of that is the work that DeAndre does, and I took 10 minutes just on the data. I'm sorry.
We knew that was gonna happen. We accepted that.
All right, so we're not talking about rights today. We're talking about the district improvement plan and the MTSS behavior committee. So the MTSS behavior committee started this school year and it ran all school year. And it's part of kind of us trying to work on the specific goals that Scott had set in the plan. So we sent emails out to all staff, and everybody in the district was able to join this committee to work on the behavior management plans with each schools. We had, fluctuated attendance from probably 10 to 25 at certain times. We had makeup, school psychologists, social workers, teachers, administrators. I think we had a TA that was kind of in and out. So we tried to get representation from everyone to work on this committee for the MTSS behavioral committee. So the reasoning was, Scott had started some work in surveying the staff to see exactly what it is that their concerns were, what the needs were we had at the district. And one of the big things came out with is consistency in behavior management. And we know that consistency in behavior management has to start inside the classroom so that we can get some consistency in the consequences that come out of that behavior management. So one of the big things that I get to see working in my capacity at RISE, but also more so CARE, is that I get to see students from every single school building that get suspended and sent to me, so I can kind of see who is suspending kids, if they're coming repeatedly, what schools they're coming from, the classrooms, and then talk to the kids, and I get to get a feel for what the kids are saying are going on in their classrooms. And so some of those inconsistencies within classroom where you're seeing kids getting suspended a lot or kids getting sent out a lot in the classroom management is a big issue that we have to solve to be able to then respond effectively as administrators in those positions as well. So we started off the work with disaggregating the data.
Next slide.
Yes. We reviewed all the classroom management plans by school. So we took every single school, the junior high and every single elementary school. We said, bring in your classroom management plans that you already have. We looked at them, we found the big ideas in each of those, and we kind of disaggregated the data to find commonalities between the schools so that we could come up with some consistencies in the classroom. Then we reviewed the school management plans, and then after we kind of found the consistency, we found the format, which kind of took a little bit of each of the plans that was already in place and put them together so that we could have a consistent format. So starting this school year, each school has a consistent format in each of their classrooms for classroom management plans, and that was done through this committee by the end of the year. So what a classroom management plan looks like is it's broken down into areas where we talk about what the routines and procedures would be for each of the teachers. Now, that does not mean each school has the exact same routines and procedures, and that does not mean each classroom has the exact same routines and procedures. But what that does mean is they all have routines and procedures, and they are written down. And this is what it looks like for each and every classroom so that we can hold ourselves accountable, but also it's more so of a reflection tool for the teachers so that they're able to see, this is what I'm going to do. Am I doing it? Check-in places around that. So this isn't new for most of our teachers. They've had to do classroom management plans. The new thing is the consistent structure in which the classroom management plans are being done. Then we're working on developing a fidelity check. We're actually 90% done with that. I just have to put it into a format that's usable because when we did it over the summer, we had like 70 questions on a fidelity check, and that's not usable for an admin to walk in and see, do you have these things in place? So we're working through that, but the fidelity checks will take place this year, where admin will be able to do walkthroughs in classrooms to check to make sure that parts of the classroom management plan are being put in place proactively instead of reactively. A lot of times, the question comes after the fact, you know, we're having these issues with this kid all the time, and now we're having the conversations about, well, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? Now we can check that beforehand, and before it gets to the point to where, you know, the teacher is fed up with the student, or the student's fed up with the teacher, we can talk about those classroom management processes that they're going through ahead of time, and that's what the fidelity check will do. Next slide. Key components are, we're definitely using evidence-based strategy. This district has spent money on conscious discipline, responsive classroom, so we didn't want to get rid of that. So in this plan, it uses conscious discipline and responsive classroom language. All of our new teachers are trained in responsive classroom right now. Conscious discipline is still, we have a lot of teachers in the district who are trained in that. So our plan has both of those components in it so that we didn't go away from what teachers already knew, what teachers were already good at, and what was working for teachers. We also use components of restorative practices. We do believe restorative practices helps to repair harm and helps for our students to be able to really reflect, like Scott was saying, on those teachable moments, that every behavior is a teachable moment, and that's what we believe at RISE, and I know that's what a lot of our elementary and middle schools believe, that this is a perfect time to teach, and the best way to do that is through restorative practices. These are the areas that we talk about in there: daily routines and procedures, rituals and traditions, classroom agreements, scholar accountability, proactive management, consequences, family communication, and fidelity checks. One thing I want to talk about is consequences. Consequences does not necessarily mean negative, punitive consequences, right? Every behavior has a consequence, whether positive or negative, so we made sure that in our plan we talk about positive consequences. What are we doing when students are doing the right thing? What are we doing when students are following the expectations? Are we giving them positive praise, positive rewards for that behavior, as well as focusing on the behavior that is unexpected in there? So the consequences can go both ways. Looking ahead, trying to go faster. Continuing for 24-25. So we are, culture and climate, so we did that, 25-26. So now we're gonna move into the behavioral interventions implementation. So this is like the tier 2. So what I just talked about with the classroom management plan is tier 1. So now we're looking at tier 2. What do we do for those kids that are still struggling after those tier 1 interventions have been put in place and we've exhausted those? So when we talk about tier 2, we talk about, you know, what resources do we have at the school level for that 10% of students that are getting those multiple referrals, right? That the tier 1 interventions are not working for. Now, one thing I can say of working in MTSS and working in districts is tier 2 behavioral interventions are not great right now. There's not a lot. There's very limited options out there for tier 2 behavioral interventions. And so what we want to do is find the ones that are the best suited for us, the best, have the most effectiveness, so that we can implement those with fidelity. So that's what a lot of the work of our committee will be doing this year. You know, we have a board certified behavioral analyst, Kathy McConkey, who will be a very integral part of kind of helping make those decisions as well, and helping to drive what interventions are we choosing to use universally across the school when kids are not meeting those tier 1 expectations. And then the universal social emotional screener, we already have a universal social emotional screener. It's called FastBridge MySavers. We are going to be looking at that. MySavers has its drawbacks. We work with the University of Illinois, the Department of Psychology, and I'm working with someone specifically who works in trauma-informed emotional or social emotional screeners. And we kind of analyzed it and the questions that are going on in there, and what we're asking kids, and how much does it really give us, and is the data we're getting from this screener actually helpful? And if you guys are interested, I can walk you through sometime what that screener looks like. It's, I think, 10 or 11 questions. It's very short. It kind of gives you your red flags based on how you answered on a Likert type scale from 0 to 4, 0 to 5. And so and the questions are sometimes kind of worded kind of wrong. So we're gonna be looking at that screener to see if there is a better option that will give us some more information, some more data to be able to drive those interventions for those tier 2 interventions.
I would say there's a lot to do, and so far, we've only had 4 days of school, but things are going very well, except at kindergarten. I'm not making a joke, but we're having some struggles again with kindergarten, and we're putting some resources there, but yeah, I think overall things are pretty calm right now. Knock on wood.
Thank you very
No
much.
questions, wow.
That's
Okay,
a good
way to go.
presentation.
All right.
Alright, information items,
Oh, boy.
you're up.
Yeah. The only one I wanted to highlight was two. Oh gosh. So hopefully you got a chance to see the Handle with Care. That's a program we're going to do with Greenville Police Department that they brought to us after we expressed some concerns to them about not knowing what's going on. So in the coming weeks, Tasha Saltzgraber, the social worker, is going to be visiting our schools and explaining the program to the teachers, so that we can get information from RPD about situations our students may have been involved in, but also being confidential about that. That's the main idea on that one. The district committees and meetings, if you know,
I got a question on the one that you just.
Handle with Care.
Yeah, Handle with Care. And I'm going off of personal, recently. Cause I thought really hard, I actually wrote a lot of stuff down on that. What's the confidential part of it, and who's actually getting the information? And it's kind of going back to sort of what we talked about earlier. Grade 2 police is automatically gonna give someone at the city school this information.
Only that a child was involved in a police contact. We don't know if it was so the idea of what we're trying to capture is, we've always really been informed if a kid is involved directly in committing a crime.
Okay.
But this is about if, let's say, there was a domestic violence situation in a child's home, and the child is then documented in that police report, because that's what's gonna happen.
Okay.
And then all we're going to get from the police, literally, is Moto Johnson, Handle with Care. That's all the police are gonna tell us.
Okay.
And then we know that something happened and we need to be aware that maybe this child needs some additional support right now. Sorry.
Well, there was a situation that happened, yesterday, last night, with a few of the high school kids. The high school kids went into the high school this morning, and all 3 kids was blasted out by 2 administrators about the situation that happened with the Rantoul Police Department.
Okay.
Not only did it was non-confidential, it was in front of other kids, and by the time the middle of the day, lunch hour, majority than half the school already knew what was going on. So where's the confidentiality and where's the legality of protecting these kids for whatever reason? They have some type of contact with the police department.
So, and I don't know what happened involved in high school.
Well, I'm saying, what are we gonna do to make sure that don't happen here?
Right.
I'll deal with that part.
So we're the conversations that I've had with, I know she tries more official title, but I just call her Tasha, as well as her supervisor, Christina, is that if they have concerns about our ability to handle the confidential information, they will stop the program. So if we, the way it's structured is, it's the classroom teacher that has the student, the building principal or assistant principal, one of them, the school social worker, and the school nurse. Those are the 4 people that would be informed, right?
Yeah.
and they're not supposed to be informed of details. But if our staff, that's why also Tasha's coming out to talk to our staff, like when you hear this, this is how you're supposed to respond, which is really don't do anything. You just need to be aware. Yeah, I think that if for some reason we had a problem with our staff maintaining that confidentiality, they would remove it. They would continue to do it.
Yeah, reading it and going through it, last day and a half, and getting input from, other people on that's able to read it too. I understand what you're trying to do, and I didn't, and before last night, I actually didn't see nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But, I didn't know, because I know if I had kids that went to Rantoul City School, you're talking about kids. You're talking about minors. Kids are gonna do things that's gonna put themselves in a bad situation, sort of like you said earlier.
Yeah, and this is
Yeah.
more about us trying to, be more informed if a child's been exposed to some kind of trauma,
Okay,
not that a child has committed a crime.
yeah, and that's why when I was reading through that, I seen that you had actually, stated that type of situation to where it was more geared towards protecting than it is hurting a child's,
Yeah, the law now, anyway, the police don't share much,
No.
anyway, with us, because the law is pretty restrictive on that.
Okay, well, that's what I thought, and I've talked to a few people, actually today, because I was called about that. They said what the high school did was completely wrong. And if it was done, it was done. But, I just didn't want something like that to happen in our district, where we're sitting here now, getting parents and our people more upset because we're sitting there saying a third grader or fourth grader did something, and the police gave us all this information, then you got a teacher that's gonna leave the school, and then we're talking about it in the hallway, and then you got other kids that's gonna hear it, and next thing you know, everybody in the school, in town might know about it by the time it's all said and done.
They won't have that information, right? What I'm understanding, nobody will have any information except for Amber will be giving it. And then they're nice, right?
That was my
I
question.
mean, we'll get the old fashioned grapevine still, but,
You may. But my question is, if I'm not mistaken, Tasha Saltzgaber, or whatever her married name is, and Deputy Chief Reefstack, they formed that For You Rantoul program with the police department. We have student resource officers in the schools. What is their role, and how can they be used as a conduit for this program? And is it outlined in their duties, job duties, because I did not see it in the
yeah,
contract?
the procedure on Handle with Care is that it's actually, Officer Kraft that will be the one contacting the school to share.
Okay, because I was saying, they are police officers, so, it will be funneled through him. And I don't think that was clear, I didn't see anything mentioned about the student resource officer being involved in
It
this.
might not always be that officer, but I think the intent of the police is that if Caleb's at work, that he's the one doing it.
Okay, okay. And just, and you clarified it, one of the questions when I first read it, not seeing your PowerPoint, the email, I was just curious if it was going to target behaviors, especially negative, if there was some adverse type of police report, don't want the kids targeted for behavioral issues, that you think might spill over into the school, which could cause them to be profiled and or moved over to RISE because of potential behavior issues. So as long as there's no profiling or anything like that going on with this, or it will be used as a tool, then
I think it's
I understand.
to help us understand why something might be wrong with the kid that day.
Okay.
Committees.
Policy changes, you just want to skip that?
There were two things in there, darn it. So on, oh my, where do I have it written down? Yep, sorry. Board policy 280, we have to determine before the board can approve it. If I remember where I have it written down. Board policy 280, there is a sentence that is an optional sentence in the board member oath and conduct. It's in the conduct part, and the board is asked to consider, should we add the sentence, consult the board attorney for guidance when considering any type of disciplinary action or sanction against a board member? My recommendation would be that you would do that. So,
Yep.
is there any reason, should we add that sentence or not include that sentence?
I would include it.
I'd include
I
it.
mean, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's how I'll have it drafted for approval for next time. The other one was on board policy 450, payment procedures. A few years ago, we modified this to allow the superintendent to pay bills up to $5,000 without board approval under certain circumstances. When the company wouldn't take a PO, that was really the main thing. It doesn't come up much, but I'm recommending that we increase that to 10,000, and that's really just in case. But we also can leave it at 5,000, it's not gonna bother.
Am I wrong, didn't we discuss this at one
That
of the board meetings?
Contract, that was for contract.
Contracts, but under the
This is
same
just to pay a bill.
bill,
Yep.
would the same principle type of apply?
Yeah.
It could cause, yeah.
So I'll put it up to 10,000. Again, there's only a few times a year this ever comes up, and I don't know that we've gone over 5,000. All right, that was it on the board policy, so I'll reflect that. On the committees, please, for sake of time right now, email or text me or Robin if you would like to be on whichever committee. We don't have to have board members on all these committees, but I know it's come up, and board always has the option of being a, what do I call it, board member? I had a nice title for it, board member liaison. There we go.
And I did not see a committee for NAPID or Black Heritage Month.
So that's a staff committee right now, and I can find out, well, one, the person who's been leading it for the last few years no longer works for us, so.
And who was that?
That was Melina Thompson.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So I've got to find out who's gonna be in charge, and I can let the board know when they're gonna.
And then we will add it to the, okay.
I can do that. That was it on information.
Okay. New business. Anybody got new business?
I was just gonna say.
It's not really new business, but it's kind of new business. I wanted to bring up, a lot of issues, but I'm gonna try to bring it down to like one or two. One, the school crossings. And I'm not saying this is a district problem, but it creates a problem when nobody knows where the crosswalks are, because they're so light that you can't even see them. They need to be repainted. There's and since I went through this whole scenario with community members this afternoon in the hot sun this morning, Northview is one big one about the traffic that they have during drop-off and pickup. And the problem is we got cars that are parked along that back end, that north side of the entrance where the buses go in, and cars are now sticking out so far, waiting in line, that we got people that can't go around, even if they're just going to Clark Street. You know, they gotta figure out a different way, a different route, and those same people are in just as much hurry to get their kids from one school to another. So one of the things they asked me if we can get with the village and see if we can't put a no parking sign during this time, basically during the time of drop off and the time of pickup, just from the north side of that entrance where we go in, the buses go in, and some of the daycare people go in. I said, I don't see how that'd be a problem, hopefully it can be done. I know they took that big branch that was out, I mean, that thing was not only an eyesore, but that was very dangerous, and it blocked not only the road off, but it blocked the sidewalk off. People couldn't get through there. But I seen, when I was there this morning, that the city did move that and got that cleaned up, so that really looks great. And at the time I was there, which definitely wasn't a drop-off and or pickup time, that road was actually clear. There was no cars parked there, and I'm sure people probably at work. I'm not saying it's gonna work, I'm not saying that we can do it. The biggest thing is to make sure that we, if possible, that we can get the lines painted, in the areas of the schools. And the other part that they were worried about, they said when you had the crosswalk person walking, the kids east and west, there's nobody walking north and south, and some kids are slipping through or going through, and they're getting in between these cars, and they're trying to run between these cars while cars are trying to pass. So they would want me to bring that up, so we'd be aware of that. And also the kids that, slip through while that, that guard or the teacher or whoever's doing the crossing is busy. When the buses turn around in that loop, kids are still walking, sometimes buses aren't looking, and they had, where they felt it was close calls. But then this is the daycare person that was telling me that, saying she had watched where kids almost got hit because there was no supervision in that area. So I told them I'd bring that to our attention. But, and then on the east side of that road, which, yeah, like I said, this is all along the same lines. When they're coming out, those people don't stop at all. There's kids trying to come through, come across. The parents, and this is nothing we can do, I don't think, but they were wondering if there's any way, maybe not on that east side, but at least on that west side, that main street, what's that? Sheldon. Why, and I know we can't pick and choose where they sit or don't sit, but Rantoul Police used to sit there during that time period. We don't have that, we don't see Rantoul Police at all no more.
Where?
On, Sheldon, when, kids are going into school.
Is there, I see them every morning.
I don't know,
I
just
see,
told
I
me that
pass
she
it, cause
told me.
I have to go through there to go to my son's school, so yeah, they're always there.
Yeah,
Right where the crosswalk is right here, and they're right there.
okay, I can believe it, I don't know.
And after school, they're parked,
Further back, yeah.
yeah,
Saw
they're
that
always
yesterday.
parked right there.
She told me that there's no police at all.
Yeah, I see them
And I
every
just
morning.
told her that I would mention it, and then the very last thing, and then, again, this is nothing that I think the school district has any say so. Those cars, when they're going, parking, or lining up, they're blocking off people trying to get in and out. And same thing, this mother said, how can I go get my kids when I can't even get out of my own driveway? So, those are just a few things that have brought to my attention today. There's a few different things, but I can bring that at a different time.
Thank you.
Delegates, we need a delegate for our Chicago School Board Conference. It's an exciting job.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Go with me.
So I'm just letting you know that,
And that's on a Saturday, right? That's a Saturday they do that.
Nikki's volunteering.
yeah, no, I'm not one.
He's recruiting.
Yes. Can't you recruit? It's very interesting. You learn a lot, and you get to vote on stuff for us.
Okay. Everybody put that on your mind.
Yep.
Email, let us know.
I had a.
Are we
Oh,
up
did
to
you have
comments
something?
yet?
Yeah, I just have something for board superintendent comments, so if you want to talk any business.
No, I don't have any, it's just superintendent comments.
I wanted to know if we could post Mr. Roundtree's slides to our website,
Not the way, I'll put them in the work packet.
or, yeah, the
So
work,
that-
just so that the public can see them. And then
And I'll put mine in there too.
I had- and parents know if your kid's thinking about college. The state streamlined the application process for, state and public universities. It's all in one portal now, and it's really easy to go in and put your information in and apply. So, if your kid's thinking about college after high school, check that out.
You can do it now.
I think I accidentally did, because Malachi's getting it.
It just came out this week, so I don't know if it's
From
up and going yet, but it came out this
Even
week.
if they're holding it like in secondary.
Well, no, I'm just saying,
Right.
put that on your mind.
Oh.
And then the other thing is, just so we can streamline the process of these meetings, if you guys know of something beforehand that you have, I think Scott sent out an email, that you wanna talk extra time about, or, you know, just bring it to our attention so we can plan for that ahead of time. So we already have it pulled out, and then we can talk about it.
And what do you mean by that? I mean, I don't, now you lost me.
Like if there's something in the consent agenda, or,
Oh.
you have something else that you wanna pull out and discuss
Oh, you mean
further.
pull out of the consent agenda?
Yeah, or something like that.
Oh.
Just let us know if you
New
can.
business, didn't we?
Or new
agree
business.
on
It was
that
new
thing?
business, it was,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there wasn't any new business.
Or new
Well, you're
business.
gonna have an opportunity to discuss all of this next month.
That's right, and I've got my list going, for Mr. Hill. And maybe I should send that to him ahead of time.
Yeah.
But I have one comment, I just want to, clarify, last board meeting, and I'll make this quick, I emphasized and was talking about non-discrimination. And that has to do with the racism-free school law that took effect August 1 of last year. School districts have until the 31st of July of 2026 to have all of their staff trained in racism-free schools. I did do some polling with other districts. I called even the high school and was told that, yes, they're aware of it, and they already have sent email to their staff, and they will be trained by mid-September. This also addresses, and this is all, this will all be collected by the state, the data on reports of racism, harassment, retaliation, bullying, all of that. They are looking at this and making it serious and taking it serious because of the level of bullying and discrimination in our schools that are being reported. And so this training, Dr. Woods and I talked about it, he received it mid-July, late July, and they're looking at a timeline, and Mr. Roundtree, as the non-discrimination officer, compliance officer for
Yes.
the district?
There you go.
Okay, will be involved in implementing the training with the staff, and hopefully it will be done, definitely by the deadline, if not
So
sooner.
it's been assigned to all staff and it's.
It has been.
By October 31st.
By October 31st, okay, that's your deadline. I think the high school was September 16th, I was told, so, okay. And, I have put information, I've got it prepared, I just haven't posted it, on Facebook, so parents are aware, because that's been one of the concerns, and I've been involved with a couple of parents, and it's been a history of, discriminatory practices and allegations, and for years, even when I was in high school, we had conflicts, we had issues, and the dynamics have changed. I believe I talked to Mr. Roundtree before. It was just black and white students fighting and having racial. Now we've got blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, and whites, and there's conflicts, and we just need to get a better handle of it and have a safe environment, an inclusive environment in our schools, in these walls, and it's led by us. We've got to set the tone. That's all I have to say.
Anybody else?
I do.
Okay.
I sent a message to the superintendent. I'd like to have a wider viewing of this. I was concerned about how school was going to start this year with all the new steps that we added, all the new moves, and I was very pleased with what I saw happen. Credit goes to himself and his staff, and faculty and staff. I went around Tuesday and talked to people, and besides what you mentioned about the kindergarten situation, everybody else seemed to be, and I talked to various people, and I think they know it well enough, they're gonna tell me what they think. And I was very, very encouraged by what I heard, that things had gone better. And I was very pleased about that. And that's a reflection of what Dr. Woods does. And I was taught years ago, it starts at the top. And we get good leadership at the top, it filters down. And I've experienced both of them, with being good and not so good. And I tell you, it's much better than it was good. So thank you and everybody for what you guys do.
Thank you very much.
I went around some schools. I have 2 schools that I did not go to. The first day of school, and schools look beautiful. Teachers look very engaged. I love the t-shirts around the schools, and I want one, just kidding. I didn't get one, nor if you gave me one. But anyhow, I did see some of those kindergartners having some meltdowns, upset. But the teachers were handling it very good. Yeah, so, yeah.
Unfortunately.
There's a couple of things that I'll talk to you about, but not today. But anyhow, yeah, teachers are doing a very good job.
Well, Amy's ready to give her tour of the building pretty soon.
It's okay.
But we're not done yet, Amy, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, because it's a general question.
I did want to share, this is more for public, because I think I've shared most of this with you all online or in through email. But today's enrollment, we were at 1660. 30 kids have not started yet, but are registered, meaning they registered very recently and are waiting to be assigned a teacher. So those are our pending kids, but they're in the 1660. And then within that 1660, there's also 12 unaccounted for students, meaning they were registered with us last year and we have not yet had any contact with them this year. So the number will, Monday, the number will go down by 12, because on day 6, we will drop the unaccounted students. Busing is going surprisingly well this year. That does not mean everything is perfect by any means. The biggest issues we're having is every delay that happens at elementary starts to trickle into the junior high, because they're next. And so we're having some pretty late buses right now at the junior high, but I think we'd rather have the late buses with that group than the little ones. Staffing, we're in a really good place with staffing compared to some prior years, so I put those numbers in there. We have 1 teaching position still posted that we are trying to actively fill. And then there are 11 of our vacancies are non-certified, and there's usually fluctuation in that group because they will come and go sometimes during the year. We have 6 full-time subs filling positions. It's 5, not sure why I said 6. And those are again positions that if we were able to find a qualified teacher, we would hire and put the qualified teacher into that. Want to make sure everybody knows Broadmeadows after-school program. We are planning, it's been announced and information's been shared with the Broadmeadow parents, that on the same days that Explorers is operating the other 3 schools, there will be programming at the youth center. We'll provide transportation from Broadmeadow to the youth center. We're working out the details. I'm hoping, I'm planning that we will allocate some of our Title IV grant funding this year to help pay for services for the kids in that program, because the other schools are all covered by the 21st Century grant. And we want to make sure we're offering some programming for Broadmeadow kids too. A reminder, next month, we were planning to start the meeting at 5:30. It's just for fun. We won't do anything ahead of time at 5, so we're not going to push our luck. We really need to, if at all possible, be done with the meeting by 6, and so that we can go into closed session with and do the training with Dr. Perry Hill. And One weird part though is we have to hold the budget hearing at 6 o'clock. So wherever we are in the meeting, we will pause and do the budget